It was a bright sunny morning in Dallas. Jason Taylor, a calm and confident young man, was walking through the bustling halls of Dallas-Fort Worth International Airport. He had a first-class ticket to New York, where an important business meeting awaited him. Though his father, Robert Taylor, was a well-known businessman with a towering reputation, Jason preferred to keep his background private. He didn't want anyone to know who his father was, nor did he want to ride the coattails of his father's success. He wanted to build his own future, make his own name in the world. Dressed in a neat black hoodie, jeans, and sneakers, Jason blended in with the crowd, walking through the airport like any other passenger. No one gave him a second glance, and that was exactly how he liked it. But things were about to change. As he approached the entrance to his flight, he was greeted by Emily Banks, a young flight attendant with a sharp attitude. She eyed him up and down as he stepped up to the door. "Your seat is in the back," she said, not even bothering to look at his ticket. Jason frowned, surprised by her cold tone. "Actually, my seat is in first class," he replied politely, pointing to seat 1A on the ticket. Emily sighed dramatically and rolled her eyes. "Are you sure you can afford the seat?" she asked, her voice dripping with condescension. Jason blinked, taken aback. "Excuse me?" he asked, not understanding why she was being so rude. Emily glanced at him, her eyes scanning him from head to toe, before she responded in a sharp tone, "We don't usually have people like you sitting in first class." Her words stung, and her gaze made him feel small, like he didn't belong. Jason's heart started to race, but he kept his composure. "I belong here," he said firmly, walking past her toward his seat. He sat down in 1A, took out his phone, and hoped that was the end of it. Unfortunately, it wasn't. As the plane took off, Emily moved down the aisles, serving the other first-class passengers with a smile, chatting with them like old friends. Jason, however, was completely ignored. She passed by him several times without even so much as a glance. Every time he asked for a simple request, like a glass of water, she pretended not to hear him or dismissed him with a curt reply. "Excuse me, can I get some water, please?" Jason asked, his patience wearing thin. Emily turned toward him slowly, feigning a smile. "Maybe later," she said, and without another word, she moved away. Jason's frustration was building, but he refused to cause a scene. He glanced around at the other passengers, hoping one of them might notice and speak up, but no one did. The whispers around him were unmistakable, and Jason had a sinking feeling that Emily had shared something with the other passengers, something that made them treat him differently. Just when he was about to ask someone else for help, another passenger, Mark Wilson, leaned over. "Hey, man, don't worry about her. I've seen her do this before," he said, his voice low. "Let's just say she has her biases." Jason nodded, grateful for the support but still confused by Emily's hostility. "What did I do to her?" Jason muttered under his breath. Mark shrugged. "It's not about you, man. She's just got issues. Don't let it get to you." But it was hard not to feel hurt. Jason had spent his life trying to prove that he could stand on his own, and now he was being treated like an outsider because of assumptions no one bothered to question. The flight went on, but Jason couldn't shake the feeling that this was about more than just a rude flight attendant. At this point, Jason couldn't ignore the way the other passengers were treating him, either. Their looks, their whispers, the way they'd glance at him when Emily wasn't watching. It was as though they had all been told something about him. Something that made them believe he didn't belong in first class. He had been traveling for years, but he had never felt this kind of judgment before. Finally, after enduring the blatant disrespect, Jason decided he couldn't take it any longer. He stood up and made his way to the front of the plane. He asked to speak to the head of customer service, and soon enough, Linda Morgan, the head of customer service for the airline, arrived at his seat. She greeted him with a warm smile. "Hello, Mr. Taylor. How can I assist you today?" Jason felt his frustration bubbling to the surface. "I've asked for simple things, like water, multiple times, and each time I've either been ignored or treated rudely. I don't understand why this is happening." Linda's face grew serious as she listened to him. "I am so sorry for the inconvenience, Mr. Taylor. I will take care of this right away," she said, her voice full of genuine concern. As Linda turned to leave, Emily, who had been standing nearby, overheard the name Taylor. Her face turned pale, and for a brief moment, she froze. Then, quickly looking away, she muttered something under her breath. Jason couldn't quite make out her words, but the look on her face spoke volumes. "Mr. Taylor, please don't worry," Linda said, her expression shifting to one of quiet professionalism. "We will take care of this immediately." As she left, Jason returned to his seat, still feeling uneasy. He glanced down at his phone, which buzzed with a message from his father. "Son, I heard what's happening on the flight. I'm handling it." Jason's heart skipped a beat. He hadn't told his father anything about the situation. How did he know? Before he could respond, the plane's intercom crackled to life. The captain's voice rang out across the cabin. "Ladies and gentlemen, we apologize for any inconvenience. We've been informed of a customer service issue, and we're working to resolve it. Thank you for your patience." Jason was taken aback. How had his father found out so quickly? And what was he doing to fix it? When the plane finally landed in New York, the atmosphere on board had completely changed. Emily, who had been cold and dismissive before, now looked embarrassed. Her face was pale, and she avoided making eye contact with Jason. She was the first to leave the plane, disappearing quickly before most of the passengers had even exited. Once Jason had deplaned, he was met by two staff members from Strauss Airways, the airline his father owned. They led him to a private lounge, where he was greeted by Linda and the airline's CEO, who just so happened to be his father, Robert Taylor. "Son," Robert said, shaking his head as he looked at Jason. "I've dealt with this situation. Emily has been removed from duty." Jason felt a surge of emotions: relief, anger, confusion. "Dad, I didn't want special treatment. I just wanted to be treated with respect, like everyone else," Jason said softly. Robert placed a hand on his son's shoulder. "I know, son. I know. But sometimes people need a wake-up call. You've worked hard to get where you are, and no one has the right to treat you as less than anyone else." Jason nodded slowly, absorbing his father's words. He understood now. There would always be people like Emily, people who judged others without knowing their story, who assumed things based on superficial impressions. But what mattered most was how he responded to those people. Jason wasn't going to let anyone take away his dignity or his sense of self-worth. As he left the airport, Jason couldn't help but think about Emily's reaction when she found out who he was. She had apologized, but he knew that the lesson wasn't just for her. The lesson was for everyone who thought they could judge others based on their appearance or status. Jason realized that he had just learned an important lesson too, that dignity and respect weren't things you could buy or inherit. They were things you earned by how you treated others and how you carried yourself through life. And with that, Jason Taylor walked away from the airport, not just as the son of a wealthy businessman, but as someone who had learned that respect could never be taken from him, no matter what.